Hello, everyone out there. Welcome to our fourth day of our teachings on full-bodied leadership. I'm Leanne. I'm going to be your host, and we'll just wait for a moment or two to make sure that we are on and we are live. If you're watching on any of our channels, if you could just say hello in the chat, let us know where you're watching from. See if folks can hear us on LinkedIn, can hear us on YouTube, can hear us on Facebook, Instagram. Just give me a yes or a hello if you can hear me. All right, it looks like we have Facebook is on. Welcome, Margie. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Looks like Bailey is live on YouTube. Thank you for weighing in. Thank you for your support. All right, if anybody is on LinkedIn, let me know if you are here. Sounds like our Instagram channel is on. Thank you all for your patience as we get started. Yes, Sharon is connecting from Boston on LinkedIn. Good to see you. Welcome and thank you for being here. Okay, everyone, I think we are live. I'm looking forward to diving in with you today. This is the fourth in a teaching series we've been doing all week on the path of full-bodied leadership. And today's session is stage 4 on that path, which I'm calling embodied authenticity. When I say those two words, I think they sound maybe a little jargony, so we might just say embracing authenticity as well. But really, this is the stage where everything starts to come together. So I can't wait to talk to you more about this stage today. I realize some of you may be watching either live or later and not know me very well yet. So just to give a brief introduction, I am Leanne Mallory. I'm an executive coach. I am the creator of the Guts and Grace Women's Professional Coaching Program, author of the book by the same name, Guts and Grace, A Woman's Guide to Full-Bodied Leadership. I'm an artist, a teacher, a healer, and a guide for the secretly spiritual professional woman who is committed to making a big change in her industry, her organization, or her community, and who knows that she needs to do that without burning herself out. So in essence, what I do is I help women tap into the wisdom of their bodies to support them to make good choices and decisions at work so that they and their organizations can thrive. That being said, I'd like to start us off just as we're arriving here together by taking a moment to feel our bodies, because we can talk about the body all day, but if we're not engaging with it, we've kind of missed the mark. So wherever you're at, just bring your attention to the sensations in your physical body. Why do we do this? Because first and foremost, bringing our attention, our awareness to our bodies brings us present in an instant. It's impossible to be thinking and kind of projecting ourselves somewhere else and to be feeling our bodies at once. So if you're wanting to get present, quote unquote, feeling your body is a good way to do it. Also, we do this because we get to get a bit of a temperature check. How are we? Where are we right now? And we do that as leaders because if we don't know, somebody else will be picking up on it and we might not be aware of the impact that we're having. So for the sake of all of that, take a moment and feel your body. Take a couple of breaths. And you don't even have to change anything. Just notice what is right now. How are you in your own skin at this moment? And as you do that, I want to affirm that we all who are here and who are watching later are in exactly the right place at the right time at this moment to do exactly the learning that will support each of us on our growth and expansion path today. I want to affirm that the paths we have already walked in our lives, in our work, and in our leadership serve us and have served us incredibly well. That we each are already making an important impact on the people and the organizations we serve. And that even when it isn't easy to believe, that just being ourselves is truly enough. Taking that in, letting that in, feeling in your own skin, if you can sense the truth in that. If not, that's okay too. But calling in the possibility that it is and could be true. All right, if you happen to have closed your eyes, you're welcome to open them or not. To remind us where we are in this conversation, we are here for a week of teaching and learning on the path of full-bodied leadership, which is what we teach inside the Guts and Grace programs and in the Guts and Grace model. And what that means is that we're really in a conversation about how do we dismantle the patriarchy within. What does that mean? These are the behaviors, the mindsets, the ways of being and doing, even the embodied shaping, like the way we carry our bodies or ourselves through the world, that we may have learned in male-dominated contexts, which could be any context I've ever spent time in, right? Could be all the way back to my early life. Maybe there was a way that the culture that I was living inside of, or the family I was living inside of, had a certain allowability of certain kinds of things and a not allowability of other kinds of things. Or maybe you grew up in your early career working in an industry that was mostly shaped by men because that's who was in leadership when the organization or the industry started to get formed. And then what we're working with here is the fact that, in fact, these behaviors may need to be laid to rest and replaced with new, more sustainable or more authentic to you behaviors for you to be your best, your brightest, your truest, your realest, and most inspiring self as a leader, and really to be the kind of executive that we'd like to be led by today. When I talk about this work, I talk about what I kind of call an internalized glass ceiling, that there's, of course, all the oppression that we actually face outside there around us. And then there's the ways that these internalized structures that take shape in our way of being and our behavior can get in the way of us actually rising to a certain level of leadership in some cases. Or if we get there, maybe there are costs and consequences to how we're being that we actually don't like, even though we've, quote unquote, succeeded traditionally. So on the first day of this journey, I talked about that entangled success that comes with certain costs, or success that has a certain kind of ceiling to it. And we've played out the rest of the journey up until our conversation today, which is about stage 4. In stage 4, embodied authenticity, or we might just say embracing authenticity, really is the stage where you have made it, where you have embraced and you've really started to be in the world a full-bodied leader. This is when I work with folks, typically this stage happens after a year to a couple of years of inner work. And it's the stage where really you're starting to settle into being your own, actually, kind of your own fully authentic self at work, in your leadership and also in your life. And not because you've said, screw it. If they don't like me, I'm just going to be myself anyway. Like that's a certain stage on the path of leadership. But much more because actually through practice and actually through letting go of some things, and from a little bit of soul refinement and a little bit of understanding kind of how you're built and softening in certain ways and opening, like we talked about yesterday, engaging and dismantling some of these structures and ways of being to let something new and even more you come forward, that you've discovered through the process and the practice of all of that over time, that in fact it works better than anything else. And you deeply believe in yourself that being you in the workplace and being you as a leader is the best strategy, that it is the thing that's going to help you get the next promotion because it's happening, and that it is the thing that's going to help you make the kind of impact you'd like to make, even if it's not what other people seem to be doing, because through your own practice and your own experience, you realize that's actually the result that you're getting. So in the stage 4, full-bodied leadership, this sense of embodying or embracing authenticity, you've gotten there in a certain way. You're probably sitting in a position inside your organization that feels pretty good to you. People are looking up at you and saying, yeah, this is a woman who knows what she's doing, who's got her stuff together. She's settled, she's centered, she's not making the kind of trade-offs that I wouldn't want to make. There's often in this stage a lot of looking up to that happens. And what's true in this stage is that the fear that you may have used to had about, if I be myself, will that be okay around here? Will I get there? Will I still be able to succeed? It's like that fear is not so present, or maybe it's even gone. And that something else, your own trust in yourself, your own having your own back, is actually what's driving your success. This, when I work with folks on a developmental path, right? So if they're in a program at Guts and Grace, or we're doing executive coaching together, there's a certain kind of falling away that has happened to reach this stage. So the other steps that we've spoken about over the last couple of days, the experience of entering initiation and having maybe something break down, break up, fall apart, fall away, some kind of a loss, and then these kind of racking up small wins that happen in the engaging and dismantling stages. It's like I've done enough of that, and I look back and I kind of say, wow, something is really different. So often when folks do a year of work together in the Guts and Grace process, for example, someone will call me up and say, hey, you'll never believe it. This thing that I couldn't do before, like suddenly someone just really gave me some feedback that I'm very good at that. Or this part of me that was always kind of a liability, like I was in the situation where that always used to come up and it didn't happen that time, or I did something really different. And what's interesting about this stage is that typically the recognition and also the pay starts to catch up with you. So sometimes, I'll often start working with someone in a context of a moment where maybe they see what's possible for them, or they've done a lot for the organization, but still the title or the role or the pay hasn't quite caught up, and that has really changed in stage 4. So this is in a way, the Holy Grail. Now, a little bit of a kind of teaser that there is another stage that we'll talk about tomorrow, but this is kind of the place that we're all hoping to get to. It's like, yeah, I want to be that person who's really reached this kind of moment in her career. And what I think is quite magical about it is that whereas earlier in the journey, you might be thinking, wow, I don't see any role models for the kind of leader that I want to be. Often this is the stage where you're realizing that you've become the role model that you were waiting for. Then in fact, through walking your own path, through doing your own healing, your own professional, your own personal development, through taking the actions and taking the risks and revealing things and getting vulnerable and frankly, trying things on that maybe you didn't think were possible for you, that actually there's nowhere else to look up to. Even if there are roles beyond where you are, right? Even if there's another title that you'd like or a different kind of impact, it's like you're looking out, you're not looking up anymore. What's so about this role, just kind of as a caveat in terms of getting here, is that if you're thinking like, oh, when will I land in this? It does really, I would say, to be really fully embodied and fully in stage 4, you do have to be in a role. So I'll often work with folks who will take a sabbatical, or will be maybe have been laid off, or will be out of the workforce for some reason. And you can get close to this stage, not in the workforce. You can get close to this stage kind of on a pause, if you will. A lot of the engaging, the dismantling, the experiments that you have to be in, and the process of letting go that you have to be in, and trying things on that you have to be in, can happen when you're not working. But it's ultimately that the stage of really embracing authenticity takes full root when you are in a role. Let's say maybe it's close to the right role, or even it is really the right role for you. And because you have to be in the game, in the arena, if you will, to be able to see if you're there. I hope that makes sense. Sometimes, like I said, I'll work with someone who's out for a while, and then they'll come back in and go, wow, there's more work to do here, because the pressures that I had been under when I was working, or the pressures that I am now under now that I'm working again, like I haven't fully figured out how to respond to them from this new way of being, even though I've cultivated this new way of being. So if you've gone on kind of a hiatus of some kind, it'll really be when you step into the next thing that you'll get to see this in action, and or you'll know what else do you need to really anchor to be at this stage of fully embodied authenticity in yourself as a leader and in yourself at work. All right. So as we've been doing over the last couple of days, I'll share a few kind of hallmarks of this stage, and then like what's interesting about it and where the gateways or the doorways are. Some of them I've already mentioned in just the setup here. Excuse me. One hallmark is the sense of, and then the perception of others of you being self-defined. There's a less of a fear of what others will think of you, and more of just an ownership, like, oh, this is me, and I like that about myself. And I can kind of feel that the hopes I had of who I would be are caught up with what I'm actually vibing, or what people are actually seeing in me. And all of that is really feels very coherent. Again, as I mentioned, another hallmark of this is that you're in a role that suits you well. I'll often use the expression right rolling when I talk about some of the work someone may need to go through to get to this stage in their life, work, and leadership. Often clients will start with me, for example, they're in the wrong job, or they're in a version of the job where they don't seem like they're quite valued enough by the organization. Maybe the title or the pay isn't there, that kind of thing. And this stage, it's like you'll know you're getting there when, again, something catches up. That can look like a number of things. It might mean that you've really done a lot of the growth and development, and you're just at the edge of really embracing this. And then like a new job comes in, a new opportunity comes in, or you decide, it's really time to step out and I'm going to actually pursue or look for that thing that really meets me where I am right now. Another thing that can happen around this time in this stage is that the organization starts to shift or change in a way that actually catches up with the work you've been doing on yourself. Meaning, there's a layoff, there's a restructuring, a new position is created, suddenly the CEO's priorities change, or the CEO leaves and you become the CEO. That maybe it wasn't clear that there was an opportunity for who you're trying to become or who you are and who you're built to become meeting the organization. And yet somehow around that moment, things start to click in and you're able to actually step into that position. So this can happen a lot around or kind of at the beginnings of this stage. And then I think another hallmark of the embodied authenticity, really the stage where we're being our full selves and being full-bodied in our leadership, is that there's a reliability and a centeredness about you. And what I mean by that is I am who I say I am. I do what I say I will do. Others trust me because of that. Like you get what you think you're going to get. Again, not in the, screw off kind of way. If you know me, you know, I don't censor a lot when I'm coaching, so I hope that's okay online. Not like the push away kind of way of like, if you don't like me, you don't like me, not like that, but really like people can get that you're going to be reliable for your values, for who you are, for how you show up. There's not like a Jekyll and Hyde effect with you. And then a lot of that is also kind of symptomatic of you really trusting yourself. It's like I said this and I meant this and I trusted myself the first moment I said it, and I actually know that I can show up for the thing that I offered or for the thing that I said. So there's a coherency that leads to people trusting in you, trusting yourself, and that comes across as, again, grounded, reliable, centered. It's great to be around people in this stage. We look up to people in this stage. These are the folks we want to be mentored by. And so, not surprisingly, when we find ourselves eventually in this stage, folks are looking to us for mentorship often. There's a certain desire to kind of understand, well, how did you get there? How did you become a person who can move through the world and can lead in this way? And I would say there are some things that are possible in this stage that maybe weren't possible up until this moment in one's development. One of them I already alluded to, which is that the compensation actually matches your self-defined worth. You're getting paid your value as you've defined it. There's not like a touch and go about that. When you ask for the money, let's say, people are like, that makes sense, right? There's a coherency again there. And if you're in scenarios where that's not happening, probably you're in the process of leaving them, or they're falling away, or there's a catching up that's happening. Another thing that's really possible in this stage that wasn't possible fully up until now is that you're experiencing what feels more like a true deep resilience, not like a Band-Aid or a quick fix around your self-care. That there is a sense of, I'm good, I'm okay, I'm not depleted, I'm not burned out, because how I'm being and doing and moving through the world is a match for what you actually can wield from a life force energy perspective. Hope that makes sense. I'll give you an example. Recently, I would say I dropped into something like another layer of this for myself, in particular around time and timing. And it's a little hard to describe, but the experience of I'm not behind anymore and the lack of rush that produces in me as I make choices, make decisions, move through the world, it's quite palpable, actually. Like I literally feel different in my body around it. And what that's looking like kind of in the world around me is that I'm meeting people in the moment when they're exactly ready to have the conversation that I may have wanted to have with them. Things kind of falling into place in a different way. But literally there's a sensation that goes with it that's very different than I think most of my younger adult life or in my earlier stages of development, feeling like a little bit rushed in the head and like, when am I going to get there, as the maybe general MO. And for me, I really experience that as a different kind of resilience. I don't feel as depleted, like I won't have enough to get there. Okay. And then last but really not least, and I think this is where things actually start to get quite juicy. As I mentioned, this is stage 4 and there are 5 stages. So it's like the beginnings of the next stage here. A sense of I am making better decisions in a healthier way, not just in my own life experience, but in how I'm choosing to run the business. Like I can see things differently and I'm choosing differently in a way that starts to spark a different kind of innovation. Let's say like a healthy kind of innovation or a sustainable kind of innovation, an integrated kind of innovation. Because once I'm not chasing anything anymore, once I'm grounded and caught up with myself as I'm able to be self-defined, it's less likely that my choices around how we move next, what we do strategically, the innovation we're trying to pursue, the pace at which we're trying to grow the business, for example, also will embody that chase, right? It's like that's not there in you, and so it's not there as much in your leadership. And that's pretty countercultural right now. There's just a lot of ways that we decide in business and as organizations that have a lot of our kind of old programming running the show. And what we should do or where we should be or how we should get there quickly and all of these things. And when you are engaging with a leader or this is your own stage that you're in, you'll see that there's like a wisdom that starts to come through and how they're choosing or what they're proposing when they've really reached this stage. Okay. So that's a lot. We are going to do a practice. I want to share just a couple more things before I do. But before I do that, just would love to see for those who are here and listening, something in the chat, like what's inspiring about this stage for you? What strikes you about this stage? Maybe you've tasted or you're in the stage or it feels a long way away. Just would love to see a couple of comments, like how's this landing for you? What strikes you here? Anything you'd like to share in the chat about this possibility or the potential of reaching this kind of stage in your leadership development. And if you know this is you, you can tell us what it's like. If you're out there and you're weighing in, thank you. It's possible that my stream is frozen. It's also possible that I am frozen for you right now. Or everyone's weighing in at once and you crashed my chat. Okay. It seems like I'm still live. My chat is frozen. So if you have been weighing in or you are, please continue. I'll check the chat out in just a moment. I'm going to just speak a few more things about like the gateways or how we enter this stage. We'll see if the chat came back, and if not, we'll just continue. Gateways to this stage, meaning how do I get here? If I'm in stage 3, if I'm in the process of engaging, dismantling, getting some quick wins, trying on some different ways of being that disrupt the old patterns that I've been in, how do I go from that to this? And I will say, like, it takes some time, little disruptions, smaller, like we do have, I think, a culture of, I want the quick win, that's good, and then I'm there. And I think the thing to say about stage 4 is like, it's a stage that we reach when we're committed to path, when we're really seeing a kind of path, a practice or like growing, learning, becoming over time, mastering something, really stepping into something as a path, as a practice, let's say, of recovery, of constant calibration, of upgrading, and that you have a willingness to pursue your growth as a leader, pursue your transformation, your evolution as a leader in that way. Yeah, that there's an unfolding that you have the patience for. if that makes sense. Because if you don't, what can happen is we get a little bit of traction and then we kind of collapse back. We get a little bit of traction and then we collapse back. And so one of the gateways is really holding your growth, your development as more like a marathon. I'll tell you, there's a few people that I really admire out there in this, and none of them are perfect humans, but just to kind of speak the name of one of them, I really have tracked Eileen Fisher for a while in the conscious business community. And I think in the way that her business got built over time and she continues to pursue her own kind of transformation and deepening as a leader, and really also be a steward of the conscious business movement, even now leaning more into sustainability around their supply chain and their fabrics and things. There's something about the pacing of that, like I'm in it for the long run, that we can look back at someone and go, wow, and they've become an icon in doing that. And I think that's very different than someone who got famous overnight, right? Or who was like, I got there overnight. There's an integration that you can feel in someone like that. So the sense of commitment to path and practice over time and continued evolution, I think is really a gateway. Authenticity is another gateway to reaching this stage eventually, meaning, again, I'm willing to say what is so about where I'm at now, about where we're at as a business right now. I'm willing to be what I am now so that I can actually get to the next place that I'd like to go. I can start where I am, and I can actually reveal that to someone. I can be out about that and out about my learning process. And then a certain level of, I kind of mentioned this already, like a patience and sincerity with a certain level of self-awareness that you are tracking for yourself in your own developmental or growth process. It starts to sound a little bit more like, a meditator, a great meditator, or a martial artist, or someone who's on a path. I think that's really what it takes to reach this kind of way of leading. It's a slow burn more than a quick fix, if you will. I'm getting notes from some of the folks I have in the audience watching that there are chats happening, and unfortunately, I have no access to them on my end. So if you are putting things in the chat, I really thank you for that about what's striking you here. I look forward to reading those comments later. And unfortunately, I can't read them out loud at this moment. Not sure what's happening on my end. So given that I can't see them and you are still out there, I'm going to go ahead and do what I plan to do, which is lead us through a brief practice. Before we wrap up, we'll probably be closer to 35 or 40 minutes today as we complete our practice. So if you're out there still, go ahead and take a moment once again and bring yourself into awareness of your physical body. We're going to do a practice that is really relevant, like we're still doing this practice in this stage, and it's also part of a gateway to this stage. It is a basic centering practice. It's inspired by my training at the Strozzi Institute. And it's a practice of coming into integrity in our physical body in 4 dimensions: the length, the width, the depth, and kind of the sense of purpose in the body. And an embodied, authentic leader, a full-bodied leader, has the capacity to be in this state more of the time than not, and find her way back quickly to this state when she loses it. And so we'll do this practice together in honor of the parts of ourselves that may already be entering or have been in or are aspiring to this stage. And I want you to just feel in your body, like, what does it feel like to be in this state as we do it together? So you can do this practice sitting or standing, like all of the practices we've been doing here this week. I invite you, if you're sitting, just to feel your butt on the chair and feel the in and out of your breath. Good, and then just briefly notice one thing else in your body that you can sense without changing it, just noticing. Maybe it's a mood, a part of your body that has some sensation, tightness, a looseness, an aliveness. Good, and then we'll organize ourselves in our full and accurate length not overreaching, trying to be bigger or taller or more dignified than we are, and not collapsing, apologizing, hiding parts of ourself. So feel your spine and let your spine be as long as it really is when you're, let's say, at your best. See if you can love your own height, whatever that happens to be, and let yourself fully inhabit it. You might imagine like a little bit of space between each of your vertebrae. You could sense the top of your head, and then sense the bottom of your tail, or all the way down to your feet on the ground. Good, and then let's embrace and center in our width. So here you might start just by imagining, if we've been with our spine, like expanding, unfurling, opening, unfolding out to the edges of you and a little bit beyond. So that your body, your posture, and also your presence is taking up space, the real right amount of space that you are, that you take up, that you need, authentically. And so that if someone was sitting on either side of you, you could feel them. You could sort of sense their presence too. Good, and then we'll come into the third dimension, which is depth, like the front to back and insides of you, and the deep down. So feel for a moment the back of your body, like the clothing on your back. And then imagine expanding your awareness out a little bit from there, so your presence gets to open up behind you. In metaphor, we might say like including what's behind you, like your past, where you came from, the real you of the past. And then bring your awareness into your insides. Like see if you can feel one organ inside your body. I feel my heart, feel my belly digesting. And so we're including the right now, here in this moment, present time parts of ourselves and our story. And then feel your front of your body, like clothing on your chest or your belly or your knees. And let your presence expand a little bit beyond your front. So like without leaning forward or falling into it, also embracing or making space for the future, what's ahead. And then take a moment and feel this as you. I am this tall. I am a person who takes up space. I do have a past, a present, and a future. Authentically me. If there's anything in all of that that you want to pull back from or shrink or hide or collapse or over-exaggerate or push, just notice. Maybe this is less comfortable than how you normally move through the world. This is part of the somatic, the embodied practice of coming into embodied authenticity. Exactly as we are. And then if there's one thing you really care about, I invite you to call it to mind. Like a purpose of yours, a vision you have, something you're up to, a community you serve. And then bring your awareness back into your body and down into your belly. So it's like dropping attention low. And also be with, however you can, in your intention or attention, that thing you care about. Not only am I all of this, but also I have this mission, I have this care, concern, it's part of me. I'm authentic about that too. Go to notice how that shapes your presence, how that impacts how you feel, how you be. Someone walked in the room, they might say, oh, well, she's doing a practice, but they also might feel the palpability of your presence, or they might even feel what you care about. So I invite you to take a body snapshot of this, especially if it speaks to you or feels like it's working for you in some way. And if not, that's okay too. Take a body snapshot in case you want to research it some more later. Meaning like, oh, just let it imprint. Okay, this is a version